Welcome to Adventure Freaks, a podcast on living abroad on a budget. First, I want to welcome my guest, Ed Gonzalez. And
That's right, yeah.
Ed, thanks so much for being here, man. I appreciate it. So we're traveling halfway around the world to meet Ed, and he is an interesting guy. So Ed
Well, I'll take
lives
that as a compliment.
Ed lives on the island of Taiwan, and he lives in the amazing capital of Taiwan called Taipei. And he's originally from Canada, from British Columbia, in a small town up there. He'll tell you more about that. Um, Ed he's a busy guy. I don't know where he finds time in the day to do all the things that he does, but he's a podcaster, and he has a podcast called Eddie Live. He also has his own restaurant, and I've heard some people rave about his food in Taiwan, and it's called Eddie's Cantina, and he'll tell us a little bit about that. He is a coach. He's a soccer coach. He's involved. He's engaged. He's got a kid, and so we have this. My child is 11. How old is yours, Ed?
She's 9, yeah, so it's
Nine.
pretty
Okay.
close.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah,
we're pretty close. All right. So well, thanks again, man. I appreciate you being here. It's
my
wonderful
pleasure.
to explore Taiwan. That's one of those destinations that I think for a lot of expats, they don't even think about it. It's
Yeah,
not really on the map in the minds of people when they think about, I really want to go somewhere and live overseas.
yeah.
People think of the Philippines, they think of
Mhm.
Thailand over there. Some people even think of Vietnam, but not a lot of
Yeah,
people think of Taiwan.
you're right, yeah, yeah.
So my question for you, my first question is, how did you find Taiwan?
Okay, so being born and raised in Canada, I always had the idea of helping people, right? And so I did some schooling for criminology. I wanted to be a RCMP police officer in Canada. I was about 21. I was coaching soccer and doing sort of that on the side. And I wanted to be a police officer. So I went and I did my written exam, did that, no problem. And then the physical, I mean, I was about 21 years old. So that was a piece of cake. And I passed all the tests and got all the way to the final interview, which is sort of a 2 to 3 hour grill fest where they kind of try to see if this guy's going to break mentally. And so I got to there and I failed that because they, according to them, was too young and I didn't have life experience. I mean, I hadn't seen uh, any murders or anything like that in my life. So they're like, you got to get some heavy life experience. And so I was like, okay, I was a bit bummed for sure, and I couldn't reapply for 2 years. So I finished off my coaching job in Canada, and I had a friend that was living in Taichung at the time, a pretty, I mean, not super close, but I mean, a guy from my hometown. So I talked to him. My hometown is called Kitimat, BC, by the way, really small town. I think it's about 8,000 people. And so, I was thinking, I got to get out of here. I got to do something different. I finished off my job and I was looking at Asia. I always wanted to come out here. Family recommended, go back to Mexico. My family's from Mexico. Go back there. We were raised kind of in Spanish, but in Canada. So I could, my Spanish is pretty good. It's rusty now, but it was pretty good at the time. When you don't use it for 20 years, it definitely gets rusty. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty good. My sister had done that, and she went to Mexico and perfected her Spanish for a year. And so I was thinking about that, and I always had this feeling to come out to Asia. And so at the time, I'm like, all right, let's look at Asia. I looked at China, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, all the countries out here. I thought, okay, so I can go over there. I was going to do some soccer and teach English. So I said, okay, let's look. And I looked around and I figured if I could learn sort of another language, I think Mandarin would be good because, I mean, that's a big one, right? Mandarin is huge, right? Chinese, Mandarin, Chinese. It's funny because when I speak to someone from the West, we say Mandarin, but over here, everybody just says Chinese, right? So,
Mhm.
Mandarin Chinese anyway. And yeah, so I figured I'm going to come out here. I looked at the options, so that kind of narrowed it down. Japan and Korea both snow. I've been to both. They're beautiful, but where I live, there's a lot of snow. So I figured tropical island, no snow. I can maybe learn another language. So I did. And yeah, I came here. I planned on coming for maybe 1 or 2 years. I had a 2 year contract. And after that was done, I thought, okay, I'm going to go home for a little bit. I went home for a few months. And I mean, your first month, you're back home. It's like the honeymoon. You're like, hey, it's great. And a second month, I mean, you're there, you're at home watching TV with your dog. Everybody's, back to work. Life's normal. You're just kind of home alone. And you're like, should I, I have that return ticket to go back. Should I just go back? I don't know. So I just came back and decided, yeah, I should definitely concentrate a little bit more on learning the language. And, teaching English is, for me, I've been coaching soccer since I was about 12. So teaching English it's so much fun. It's easy. My favorite actually was kindergarten. I would teach, kindergarten 5-year-olds and stuff, and it was great. So I came out here. The money was pretty good. Cost of living is pretty low. You can go out and you can get fancy meals, of course, but you can also live really cheaply. And I don't know. I mean, you could eat basically every meal outside here if you wanted to. It's just been a great place. It's warm. People are super friendly. I definitely had a chance to travel to Japan and Korea and some of the other countries, and I don't know. I think I landed on the right one right off the bat.
Oh, that's awesome. So when you first went out there, you got involved in teaching. So that
Yeah,
was
I
one
did.
your first gig teaching English.
Yes, that's right. First sort of official gig. Yeah, yeah. I was doing some coaching as well, but the main sort of gig was teaching for sure. Yeah.
What are the qualifications to do that?
You need sort of a BA. That was, let's see.
So you need a bachelor's degree.
Yeah, you need a bachelor's degree. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. That was about 20 years ago. Yeah, about 20 years ago. So it was, at that time I had a lot of friends, and you could sort of fudge it a little bit, but because they just need people, and you could people here, they do speak English, but they don't. Everybody really loves the sort of the American Western accent. I do have British friends that teach here as well, but more often than not, the preferred accent is ours. Yeah, so we got lucky on that one. Yeah,
Yeah. Are teachers still desirable over there? Are they still looking for native speakers?
always. Yeah, they're always
Yeah.
looking. They're trying to make Taiwan English an official language. I think they released a press conference in the next 10 years. They want it to be like the Philippines, right? I mean, everyone speaks English there,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
yeah, they want that American accent. So definitely Americans and Canadians. I mean,
Yeah.
right now, pandemic, of course, is the borders are locked and stuff. But aside from that, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. How is the pay out there?
The
For
pay, so you can make so it would be about 1,000, say, so 30,000 NT would be 1,000 US. So you can make between, let me think in US for a second, about, let's say, 2 to 3,000 US, maybe three and a half thousand US for sort of a basic teacher a month.
per month.
And rent
Okay.
rent can be, I mean, obviously you can find a fancy place, but you can live really cheap, you can eat really cheap. So compared to friends that I have that do the same thing in Japan and Korea, the pay is a bit higher over there, but the
Hmm.
cost of living is way higher over there. So it's still, I think it's still the best bet. People are really friendly here. Um, the crime and all that is almost, I mean, can't say zero, but
Yeah.
it's pretty close. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you go into a Starbucks or something, and you leave your laptop and your wallet and your keys and your cell phone, whatever, on the table. You go to the bathroom for 20 minutes, or you go up and everything's still there. I mean, people will literally chase you down with your wallet and your keys and stuff. Hey, you forgot
Yeah.
this wad of cash you left on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's incredible. It's like
yeah,
that in Korea too.
yeah.
There-
Okay, yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah,
just an incredible respect for property and people's belongings, just for people in general.
yeah,
It's just that there's just a respect there that we don't see in the West. It's very,
yeah.
very different that way. But okay, so you went over there and you were 21 years old. What did you, when you
Around that
first,
age. Yeah.
how old?
Sorry, around that age. Sorry, I'm cutting you off. Around 21, 20, 22, I believe, something like that.
Okay. And what
Yeah.
what 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 did you first notice? I mean, what struck you as like this is really awesome or this is really incredible when you first arrived? I mean, what were the things that stood out for you that said, this is really interesting. I really like this place.
Okay, so basically, you're you get the stares from everybody. That was 20 years ago. You can still get them, in certain areas here, but 20 years ago, uh, everywhere you go, I mean, okay, they had Blockbuster Video and stuff at the time still, so you could go into like a Blockbuster Video on a Friday night, just to go grab a DVD or something, and you just go home and watch it. And I mean, everybody would be staring at you, and people that owned English schools would be like, "Where are you from? You from
Yeah.
America?" Everybody, first of all, everyone assumes and hope America. Everybody says America, right? They don't say the USA, they say America here. Like, you from America? And I'm like, no, no, I'm from Canada. And they're like, okay, great. Want to teach? You want a job? And I'm like, well, I'm just kind of trying to get a movie here, And they're just like, no, I can pay you, whatever you want. Come and teach at my school. I just have the school around the corner. Do you live nearby? And everywhere you go, people are sort of offering you jobs, and everywhere you go, because it's funny. The funny thing is, it's a weird stereotype, but in the West, people think, okay, Asian people look the same, right? I mean, that's always a common thing. But here, they think we look the same, so they think that sort of non-Asians look the same. So it, here, being one of the few sort of non-Asian guys sort of in the area, everywhere you go, I mean, people would be talking to you, and maybe practicing their English, saying hello. I mean, women would be like, hey, I teach you Chinese, you teach me English. And everywhere you go, it's just like, you're almost like a star, and you're just kind of like, wow. It
Yeah.
was definitely overwhelming, being a super quiet, shy guy from a really small town, and then coming in and being and getting all that attention was pretty crazy. Yeah, that was the first thing for sure.
Yeah, yeah. That it's really, yeah, it's neat when you go overseas, and especially parts of Asia like that. And it's like I tell people here in the West. I mean, Canada, you can apply and you can apply and you can, and it's tough to find work. It's really it's a hard task to find good work, and it can take a lengthy period of time, right? But over there, I mean, you stand out. And if you have an education, I
Yeah,
mean, you could take your pick. I mean, most people will just call you up over the phone and say, hey, can you come and we just want to talk to you. We want to interview you over the phone. That was an experience that I had when I lived in Korea,
okay,
and people were trying to pull me this in this direction and that direction.
yeah,
But just the opportunities were unbelievable, that you
yeah,
just don't see here. It's like you don't have to work to find work and good work.
yeah,
That's what it
definitely,
was
yeah,
like for me. It
yeah.
sounds like the same in Taiwan.
Yeah, definitely. I think I always share a couple of these stories on my podcast. I remember I was moving out to sort of a little bit of a more remote area. I mean, remote meaning sort of the end of the train. And I was, because I was coaching more soccer out there. So, and then the commute was a bit much. So I said, okay, I'm going to go out there. I was on the train looking out the window, and I see, this big English school, with a phone number on it. And so, at that time, I write the phone number down. To get home, I settle up and I call, and then they're like, oh, I'm like, hey, is this blah blah? I can't remember the name of it. I think it was New World Kindergarten. So I'm like, hey, is this New World Kindergarten? And they're like, yeah, yeah. I said, oh, so my name is Ed Gonzalez. I'm from Canada, and I just moved to the area. I don't know if you guys are looking for English teachers. And they're like, okay, yeah, we definitely are. We pay 500 an hour, which at the time was low, which is still low now. And I was making 700 an hour. And I said, okay, well, what I usually make is 700 an hour. And they're like, okay, no problem. Just come in tomorrow, and we'll talk about it. So, 9 o'clock, I show up. I have my resume. I've got a little polo shirt on and stuff, and my hair's brushed and I shaved and stuff. So, I walk in there, and then they look at me and they just kind of give me the look. Okay, 700 an hour. Yeah, start tomorrow, 8:30. And I'm like, literally holding this resume. I'm like, do you want this? And they're like, no. And I'm like, you have any questions for me? They're like, no.
Yeah, it's
So I got the job, and they're like, yeah, tomorrow, 8:30. I mean, that's it. They didn't ask me they didn't ask for anything. And I thought, well, and it's lucky for them as well, because I'm really good with kids, and I love it. But it's just like, wow, they didn't ask me anything. So I'd go to work, had a great time, and they said, yeah, 700, no problem.
Yeah.
It's really, that's a lot based on look, and it's funny because a lot of people complain, but when you go in and you got the Western, the Canadian or American accent, and I don't know how to say it, but you're the typical, not typical, but you're kind of like, you're what they're looking for.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
go in, you get the job, and a lot of people that, let's say, are maybe Asian descent, they have a little bit of a harder time because they look more Asian,
Yeah.
or different colors of skin. They have a little bit of a harder time because Taiwan, they just think, there's this white American guy,
Sure.
perfect, right? So you get the job super easily,
Yeah.
and you get that job, and I would always wonder why. So there was one day, my classroom was right by the office. I was looking out, and I see this kind of like guy in a big suit in a big car, Taiwanese guy. He comes in, and he walks in, and this is really common, is looking around, and they're just like, I can kind of hear, and they're like, where's, this is an English school, and they're like, yeah, where's your foreign teacher? And, hey, Ed, can you come up and say hi? I'm like, hey. I go on, how you doing, my man? Good. And he just kind of looks at me, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from Canada. He's just like, okay. And then he pulls out like this wad of cash and pays the tuition on the spot. And like, okay, you can go back to work.
Yep.
So that's it. I mean, it's the
It is.
equivalent of when you go to a Chinese restaurant and you see all Chinese people in the kitchen, and you're like, okay, it's sort of the equivalent of that.
Sure.
But yeah, if you go to a Mexican restaurant, you see all the Mexicans in the kitchen, you're like, okay, you see the grandma kind of like making the tortillas. You're like, yeah, I'll eat here. It's the equivalent of that.
It is.
Some people don't like that, but yeah, it's just the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a marketing strategy throughout Asia.
Yeah.
And they're really trying to teach the idioms and the language and the lingo that we hear, what they hear in movies,
They love it.
and
Yeah.
right, what they see and what they hear in Hollywood movies.
Hollywood's big
And
for
so
sure.
yeah, so that's a big part of the marketing for
Yeah,
sure. And
definitely.
it is advantageous for people in Canada and America and those parts of the world to find work, because it really is an easy task to find work. It was
Yeah,
for
it
me. It
definitely
sounds like
is.
it's still the same over
Yeah,
there.
for sure. For sure. I
Yeah.
mean, you can go in and get somebody who is completely like outclasses you in every way, on paper. But you go in and they're just like, I like your look. You look better than that guy. You got it,
Yeah.
and it's just like, okay. But that guy's got like 10 years experience.
Yeah.
I've got like zero. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it
It's
doesn't
true.
matter. So
Yep.
yeah,
Appearance and the look is everything for sure
yeah,
too. That's
really
a
is. Yeah,
big thing over there. I
yeah.
noticed. So let's go into to rent and affordability.
Sure, sure,
So
sure.
for the people that would be interested in moving to Taiwan, well, actually, first I want to show our viewers where Taiwan is. I want to kind
Yeah,
of scroll in. So I'm going to share a screen. Let me pull
sounds
the map
fantastic.
up. Yeah, let me pull the map up here. And hold on.
It's a really small island, man.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So, all right. So here's America over here. So you're
yeah,
over. You grew up
yeah,
in British
yeah,
Columbia, north
yeah.
of
Very close to
north of
Alaska.
Vancouver, right?
Oh, way up there. Yeah, yeah. We're
Yeah.
closer to Alaska than Vancouver. Yeah,
How far would it take you to drive to Vancouver?
16 to 18 hours.
Okay. So that's a,
Yeah,
that's a okay. That's a good drive.
yeah.
All right.
And
So
people
let's
love
see.
doing it. It's like a badge of honor in my hometown. They drove it straight, no brakes. And you're like,
Yeah.
wow.
So and you're from
Kitimat right there, brother.
Kitimat, right?
Kitimat. That's it.
So
Yeah,
here's your hometown. You
yep.
are
That's me.
okay, so that's pretty impressive because you grew up in the boonies, man.
I did, man. Yeah,
You
for
grew up
sure.
in the boonies and now you're living in Taipei, which is far
That's right.
from the boonies.
Far from the boonies. Yeah, when I came out, I figured, you know what? I don't know Taipei from Tainan, from Taichung. So, capital city, let's go.
So here we're zooming in on Taiwan,
That's us, baby. Yeah.
the island right off the coast of China.
Yes, sir.
It's right, it's just north of the Philippines,
Yep.
east, northeast of Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, all those beautiful locations,
All those
and
places are beautiful.
very
Yeah.
close to Seoul, where I used
Yep.
to live in Japan. I
Yep.
mean, it's a great area, man. It is such a
Yes.
great location.
Welcome to come on down anytime, my man. Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to come visit you, buddy. I might
Please
take
do.
you up on that.
Do it. You just got to hold on for the yeah, the whole pandemic, right?
So
Because they
exactly.
locked the borders down. I mean, right now, Taiwan, I believe, sorry to cut you off, they've done the best for the pandemic. I mean, we're 0 cases a day right now. Sometimes you get one or two. When there's a breakout, there's sort of a mini lockdown, and then it gets back down to zero. It's crazy. Everyone masks up. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been an interesting year and a half, man.
Yeah, for
It has
sure.
been an interesting year and a half. So this is Taipei. It's the capital,
That's right.
um, and
Yeah.
uh, and now you've lived there for how many years, Ed?
Almost 20. Almost
Almost
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you fluent in Taiwanese now?
Yeah. So they speak Taiwanese and Chinese, Mandarin Chinese.
Okay.
So northern Taiwan, especially Taipei, is more Chinese. They speak more Mandarin Chinese. So
Okay.
I'm pretty fluent in. I mean, the reading and writing, that's tough because you
Yeah.
need to sit down and you got to write those. Like you can see those characters. You got to sit there and write those. Like my daughter sits and she writes her characters every day, and that's her homework. So reading and writing definitely not great, but speaking for sure. Yeah. I mean, I do some podcasts in Mandarin as well.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
That is impressive. So this is how long does it take you to get to, um, how do you
Very
pronounce
bottom there,
that? It's couch.
Kaohsiung. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably about 6 hours driving.
Okay, that's a
Yeah.
6-hour drive. Okay, to get
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
bottom of the island. Okay, so you
Yeah.
can reach it in a day. So there's
Oh yeah.
locations throughout the island. So where, in your opinion, would be like a place like this, like where is like a city that
Okay.
has the beach, it has, a place, it's walkable where you can walk to the cafes, you can walk to the pubs, you can walk to
Yeah.
the stores, you could walk to the beach. Is there a place like that in
So
Taiwan
yeah.
that's
So
affordable?
the good thing about Taiwan being an island is, I mean, there's beach all around it, right? So being an island that is like a tropical island, they're not huge beach people here. It's getting better. In Taipei, for example, where I'm at, we can go to the north coast, and that'll be about an hour away, and we've got beach there. But the best beaches are on the very, very southern tip. So there's actually a high-speed rail that can take you from Taipei to that Kaohsiung city in
Hmm.
about an hour and a half. So
Oh,
you can be
wow.
there in an hour and a half, and from there to the bottom tip of the island is it's another 1.5 hour bus ride. So you can be there
Mhm.
really quick. At the
Okay.
bottom tip of the island is a sort of a small city town place called Kending, and that place is it's like a little surfer town. It really reminds me of a small town in Thailand, a small town in Mexico. It's a really, really beach town. And so the further south you go, people start to switch over to Taiwanese. So of
Hmm.
course they all do speak Chinese, but when you're here, sorry, Mandarin. So when you're here and you're outside, it's all Mandarin. Everybody's speaking Mandarin. But when you go down south, everybody's speaking Taiwanese. Most people do speak both, but sort of halfway down start to switch over.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what would be the cost? So for somebody to come down there and say, "Hey, I want to check out Taiwan. I want to live there for a little while. I'm going to
Okay.
rent an apartment. I'd like a nice apartment, maybe with a balcony and a view, something
Okay.
comfortable, but what's affordable down there? What do the prices start at, and what do they go up to?"
So, I mean, different cities are different prices. Obviously, Taipei being, capital city is the most expensive, depending on the area. But you can find, I would say, about maybe US about five. You could about $500 a month. You could find a decent place. If you're looking to be like in the city, it's going to be more. But if you want to go out by the beach, even less. You know, like I was saying, they're not very big beach people here.
Yeah.
So sort of beachfront areas, beachfront properties are cheaper than like downtown city center. So yeah, you could go 500 or less US. I mean,
Can
like,
you find some decent apartments for like 200, 250?
yeah, yeah. If you're out sort of, you don't mind to travel up, like it's in Taiwan, everything's very convenient. So I mean, if it's like 20, 30 minutes away from where you want to be, I mean, prices start to go down. And every block or two, there are convenience stores like there's one called Family Mart. Of course, there's 7-Elevens everywhere. I mean, you can pay your phone bill there, you can pay your gas bill there, you can pay all your bills there, you can pay your parking tickets there, you can buy Bitcoin there. It's really super convenient.
Hmm.
So the country and all the people are really, really used to convenience. So if you're a bit further out, you can get it really cheap, man. I mean, that's Taipei. If you start to move down south, the smaller towns, you can rent like a whole building for 300 US.
Oh, wow. Okay, so
Yeah,
you can
like a
really get some
building.
stuff for what is the I mean, for a decent, in your
Yeah,
opinion, I mean,
yeah.
for a nice apart, what is the lowest you think somebody could find that it would just blow their mind to see this place for rent for this amount of money in and around
Inside
Taiwan
Taipei or
or
anywhere on the
all
island.
over? Yeah, like
Oh man, you could get a place for 150 bucks for sure a month. Yeah, I mean it'll be a little bit more remote. But yeah, I mean, for example, there are mountains. Like if you look at the map, there's mountains sort of close to where I am, and there's this sort of the mountain, the windy mountain road, and up there's a bunch of houses, and some of them are a little bit older, but those you could get like a house for 200 bucks.
200
Yeah,
bucks. So as far as like a is there like a beach town or a beach community that's somewhat
yeah.
popular for tourists or people that would go that would be like a or like a a place where a lot of travelers kind of flock to because it's near the beach. They have the pubs, they have the cafes. Is there any place like
Yeah.
that in
So
and around
the southern tip of the island, like I was saying earlier, called Kending,
Kending?
definitely. I mean, that's kind of like the little. It's not really a city. It's kind of a little resort town. You can go down. You can do like the Mexico thing, the all-inclusive thing. Then you
Okay.
can walk out, and there's walk. It's like Thailand. There's walking streets, and there's night markets. And yeah, I mean, but Kending is becoming more popular, so the rent is going up more in that
Yeah.
area if you want to live there. But
Sure.
to go visit is cheap for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. What could you find something for 100, 200, three
In
hundred down there?
Kending,
Yeah.
um, I've never looked, but I'm sure you can. It won't be like right by the busy area, but you can get a scooter and scooter gas. Like so, we ride a scooter, and I think I spend gas wise probably 5 US for 2 weeks. Like
Wow.
it's ridiculous.
That's like crazy, man.
It's crazy,
You're
right?
living the
So
dream over there, buddy.
yeah, so I'm really like and my wife once in a while will see like, you know, I don't even look at I haven't looked at the gas price in 10 years, you know.
Yeah.
My wife once in a while like, oh, gas went up, and I know I fill up the tank and it's like 30 cents more or something. And I'm like, yeah, that's okay. I'm not
Yeah,
worried
yeah.
about that. Yeah,
Wow.
so definitely. And then, you know, the scooters are really good on gas and they're cheap and you can just kind of zip around. And they've also got Uber, obviously, and taxis here. So if
Hmm.
we want to go far, I mean, we don't want to travel on a scooter. We'll just take an Uber, and yeah, we don't have a car here because it's really convenient to get anywhere. And parking is tough here because everybody has a car. So yeah,
So how do you spell that city, Kending? How do you spell that?
Kending, Kending.
Okay,
Yeah,
Kending.
yeah,
Okay, so
Kending.
for the
Yeah,
viewers, it's Kending, and that's kind of
yeah.
like a nice little tourist area and very
So
affordable.
that's the very bottom tip of the island. If you look at the map again, that little sort of the bottom of it, they say Taiwan looks like a tobacco leaf. The bottom sort of stem, that's Kending. Yeah.
Okay, let me
So
see.
there's two ways of spelling it. There's one has a D and one has a T. If you zoom
Uh-huh.
in down there, you'll probably see it. Yeah, the very bottom tick, the bottom area. You
All the
keep
way
going
there it
down.
is,
There you go. There it is.
K-E-N-G.
That is it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
kind of like a
so
national
so
park.
yeah. I mean, it's it's nice. Yeah. So that's the that's the spot, man. I mean, surfers go down there. There are actually little islands sort of around Taiwan as
Uh-huh.
well, and I have friends that live out there, and they're just there. I got a buddy who does free diving out there, and like Lanyu is yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's yeah. There's a lot of yeah, like free diving and scuba diving, and it's pretty cool, man. I mean, and the two coasts are so different. You know, Tainan, and then you've got Taidong over there. It's yeah, man. It's a great place. So like I said, I've been here for a long time. I have traveled to the other nearby countries, of course, because it's cheap, and I'm not used to that. Being in Canada, domestic flights were quite expensive growing up. I don't know if it's still like that, but it was when I grew up. For example, from Vancouver to Toronto would cost me more, you know, as a kid, as a kid growing up, Vancouver to Toronto would be more expensive than Vancouver to Guadalajara. So
Uh-huh.
we never been, you know, never been to the east coast of Canada because you know we just go back to Mexico and see the family, and Mexico's great. So yeah, we used to
Sure.
do that, and during the
Sure.
summers for sure.
What is the process of renting a place over there? Now, I know that in, areas of China, Korea, a thing called key money that you put
Okay,
down, and
yeah,
it can be a significant charge.
yeah,
Like, it's much more hefty than a down payment or a first month's rent,
yeah,
which is typically required here in the United States. So how do you
yeah.
rent a place over there?
So I'm always sort of telling people that Taiwan is kind of like the best of all the worlds. There's no key money here. It's sort of first and last month's deposit. You can find an agent. Agent will find everything for you, and they'll take you all over the place. Agent will take half a month of the first rent, so that's the agent's fee. So if it's cheap, they're still just taking an extra half month, which is their
Sure.
fee. If it's expensive, then of course a half month is going to cost you more. But you can do that. You can go yourself. You can go around calling the actual landlords and stuff. They'll show you the place, or you can go on a website called 591. I believe it's 591.com.tw, and it'll basically show you like a Google map of wherever you want, and it has these little sort of these little drop sort of things on there, and those are all places for rent. You click on it, shows you the pictures, it shows you how much it costs. It's like you want to check it out, call this number. It's really convenient. Yeah, it's first and last month's rent, so it's pretty simple and it's pretty basic like back home. The funny
Yeah.
thing is I've been here for so long that I don't even remember things like that from Canada, because I left when I was pretty young. So I mean I'm more used to life here. Yeah,
Hmm. So are
yeah.
you renting or did you buy?
So we're renting because so I have a restaurant in a pretty nice area close to the international schools. There's an American school, there's a European school, there's a Japanese school, and sort of this area is kind of the equivalent of like a Beverly Hills area. And so the spending power is very good here. So to buy a house in Taipei is a lot. I mean, for probably for a million US, you're gonna get like a shoebox or a parking spot. So to actually purchase is it's crazy because the rent can be decent, but if you flat out want to purchase something, it's really expensive. Yeah, so we haven't bought anything yet.
Okay. How about like if you bought something, are things throughout Taiwan expensive real estate? Is it
That's
throughout the
again
island?
Taipei City is expensive, and depending on the area, it's expensive. But like I said, if you go out, it's weird because it's kind of opposite. Like if you go out to the beach areas, you go out to more remote areas, the price drops significantly, and that's because the people here they love convenient. I mean, they love to be able to walk or to scooter to wherever they want. I mean, people kind of stay in their own little districts and stuff, and yeah, so if you're in a good district, like let's say the Taipei 101 is probably the most famous building here. That's the most expensive area. That's kind of like the city center, like the downtown area. And to buy a house there, it's going to cost a lot. But if you're moving out to a smaller town, yeah, the price drops a lot for sure.
Hmm. Do you have any idea what those costs are outside of Taipei?
Those costs, I would say they would drop. significantly. I would say half, less than half for sure, less than
Hmm.
half.
So that's still,
So
I mean,
yeah,
if you're talking $1 million for a house in Taipei, I mean, it's not
yeah,
cheap.
yeah. No, no, it's definitely not cheap. So yeah, most people rent here, and that kind of keeps it's kind of a weird bubble because sort of the people that own the houses they make on rent, but if you want to buy a house, you have to pay high and kind of
Mhm.
rent lowish. So it's
Yeah,
kind of it's a weird thing. So
yeah,
the average local person is not going to be able to buy a house unless the whole family kind of five families, buy a house, Mexican style. There's five families in one house. Then they can kind of do it, but it's going to be a long trip to pay that off. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, like I'm saying, 1 million, but that's not enough to buy an apartment in this area. So there'd be a couple for sure, a couple million, and it's
Wow.
going to be sort of like a three-bedroom apartment,
Yeah. Are
and
you
it's not
guys
even a
in an
house.
Are you in an apartment
I'm in
or a
an
house?
apartment. Yeah, yeah, I'm in an
You're in an
apartment.
apartment.
Houses are pretty rare unless you go up the mountain and buy a beat up one. There
Okay.
are certain, like, sort of a lot of Americans, Canadians are sort of handymen. They're a little bit more handy. So they'll go up and buy a little bit more of a fixer, not buy or rent a little bit more of a fixer upper, and they'll slowly fix it up. Or there are certain rows that are up the mountain as well that they're mansions, and those are kind of like the elite. Every country has sort of the one percenters, right?
Yeah,
So
sure.
so yeah,
Sure.
yeah, yep.
All right. So you mentioned that you get around on a scooter.
Mhm.
So you
Yes, I
guys
do.
don't own a car. You just use
We do
scooters.
not own a car. I am 43 years old. I've never owned a car in my life.
Well,
I actually don't plan on buying a car, man.
good for you, man. That's
My
called that.
nephew,
I love
my
that.
nephew and nieces, they all got cars, and people ask, "Hey, what your first car?" I'm like, I don't even have a car never in my life. So
Wow.
yeah, I
So
mean, you don't
what do you
need one.
do? What do you do when it rains?
Put on a rain jacket or take a taxi.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah, man. I mean, like I said, so we're uh, to the restaurant. We're walking distance, maybe 15 minutes, 12 to 15 minutes. My daughter's school is 5 minutes away, so it's really convenient. I mean, this area especially, there's lots of parks. I mean, obviously there's us as a Mexican restaurant, there's a couple nice Indian restaurants, some nice Thai restaurants. And then there's of course all the local food. There's some good burger places. I mean, yeah, I haven't left the area in a while. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that
yeah.
sounds awesome. How did you get into the restaurant business? How did you decide to
Okay.
open up a restaurant and find that niche? Because I think there's probably there are probably not a lot of Mexican restaurants in Taipei. I'm just guessing. Are you the only one, or do you have
Well,
any
there's a
competition?
couple.
There
There
are a
there are a
couple.
couple
Okay.
now. We were so before us there were two sort of really long running, like 20, 30-year-old ones that were sort of quote unquote Mexican, but they would be uh, really sort of it'd kind of be like Chinese food, and then they would throw some sliced jalapenos on it or something like that, and then they call it Mexican. So there was that, but those ones are now gone. So we've been doing them for about 15 years. So right now we're the longest running one. After us, there have been a few Mexican people coming over, marrying Taiwanese and opening up little stalls or opening up little restaurants. Actually, next week on my podcast, I'm going to have a Mexican guy who's got a sort of a taco stand on the other side of the city. I'm going to have him on. And we're going to have some chat and stuff. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
So we started. Let's say we started after I met my wife. After we got married, we were both teaching and I was coaching. And to be honest, I could have done that forever because it was almost like living on vacation. The money was good. It was super easy to get a job. Everywhere you go, people are like, "Hey, teach my kid private lessons. I'll give you 50
Yeah.
bucks an hour." And you're just like, "Geez, okay." I mean,
Yeah.
wow. I'm not getting that in Canada.
You
And those
know,
50 bucks,
and
yeah,
what they don't know either, Ed, is that when you do tutor over there, all they want you to do is just like sit with them and talk,
yeah,
have
yeah.
a
Just sit there and
conversation.
talk.
You don't have to
Yeah,
teach them anything. It's just a conversation.
yeah. That's it. That's it. So people, they just want their kid to speak with a native speaker,
Yep.
and hopefully they can catch your accent, and then That's what they want. Yeah. So you can do that. I mean, still now people are like, hey, do you want like, oh man, I got so much on my plate right now. I can't. But for example, this summer, a summer camp that I used to teach at years ago, they called me up. They're like, I got this 1 week camp. I can't get the teachers in. It's online. If you want to sub for a week? And I said, yeah, okay, I did. And it was fun. I hadn't done it for a while, and it was pretty fun, pretty easy. It was my first sort of online experience. It was good. Yeah. Yeah. So far, so good.
Yeah.
So basically what happened was we got married. I was teaching and coaching, making pretty good money. My wife, funny story, my wife also was teaching English. And when she applied for her job, you can see a significant difference in the way her pay, or the way that she would get treated. If I would bring her to the interview, she'd be like, oh, wow, her husband is a white guy, and quote unquote. Okay, so she gets this salary.
Sure.
So she got a good salary as well. We both had good salaries. Did that for a little bit, and she's like, I don't really like it that much. I said, well, we're married now. We're fairly young. It's like 28 years old. Like, what do you want to do? She said, well, her dream is opening a coffee shop. And I said, well, there's a lot of coffee shops here, and there was then, and there is now. And I said, really? Okay, so let's talk about it. And she said, I wanted a coffee shop and have like the bossa nova music in the background and stuff like that. And she still talks about that now. But I told her, for me, like, I drink coffee, like I'll drink coffee, but I'm not a diehard coffee person. Like, I can go months with no coffee, and I'm okay, right? So for me, I told her, for me to do a coffee thing, it's going to be tough, because I would feel like living a lie. I'd be like, yeah, we've got our beans from here, and every morning you got your coffee, blah blah blah, and that's not a big. I don't like to live lies. I can't live a lie. I do like coffee here and there, but I can't be like, I'm the coffee master. So
Yeah.
she knows my mom and my food and stuff like that. So I told her, well, why don't we try something with food? We do Mexican food. Like, you love my mom's food, you love our food. That I can be like, okay, passionate about. Okay, we make our own tortillas. We're doing this and that. And she said, okay. So we were in a night market close to our house, a really busy night market, and we walk up and down, and we'd be talking about location and stuff. And there was this milk tea stand. Okay, so there was a milk tea stand there, and I can't remember if it was a Thai milk tea or a Hong Kong milk tea, but it was just this stand where this lady was making milk teas. We're there, and she told us, we're getting a milk tea, and we're looking at this lady, and we told her, how do you get a stand in a night market? And she said, well, each little piece of land in front of the building is owned by, whoever owns the building. This particular one, the guy beside us selling sausage, he owns the building. So I just rented this little piece of land from him. And we're like, okay, cool. And she said, actually, business is not good. I'm done in 3 weeks. So this actual little plot will be available in 3 weeks. So just, talk to the guy. And we're thinking to ourselves, well, we're not really ready, but let's ask the guy. So we're like, hey, how you doing? He's like, yeah. So yeah, you can take this place in 3 weeks, and blah, blah, blah. And then I said, okay, well, let me think about it, and let's figure it out. So we went home and stuff like that. We were chatting and chatting and chatting. And then the next day we're just like, all right, let's just do it. So we went, talked to the guy, paid our, first and last months, and we're just like, bam. So whenever we can, we'll go to the restaurant street and look for stalls and equipment. We definitely weren't ready, but we
Yeah.
just did it. We paid the rent. We're like, okay, we're gonna do it. So we did it. So we had a stand in a night market selling burritos and quesadillas and horchata for about a year, just under a year. And so they give you 1 year contracts. And once that was up, we were thinking about renewing, but we were in a really popular night market, and the rent was actually really high for sort of I don't know, a couple square meters, just basically like just a little slot here, like the size of a table basically. And so we were paying 1,100 US a month for just this tiny little spot, right? And the next street over that was less busy, just I would say about less than 10-minute walk away, we were able to get a whole building for like $100 more. So the first floor restaurant, second floor apartment, and then the third floor rooftop. We were able to take the whole thing for about $100 more US a month.
Wow.
So we actually saved because I mean we couldn't live on that one little piece, right? So we had to go, rent an apartment. So we moved to the other one, and that became the first Eddie's Cantina. And yeah, that was about 14 or 15 years ago. So yeah, so
Wow.
that's kind of how that came up. Yeah.
So you opened the door and things kind of took off and people enjoyed the food and
Yeah, I mean, not everyone enjoyed it because the funny thing about Asia is they eat things differently. For example, Mexican the refried beans, right? So you have your beans and your garlic and your salt and stuff like that, and you can put lard. We don't because there's a lot of vegetarians here,
hmm
but you can we eat garlicky sort of salty beans, and savory we say, right?
Yeah.
And here they eat the beans sweet. So like red bean, they can have like red bean, pinto bean ice cream, right? Like sweet. So it's very, very different.
hmm
Oh, that's my alarm. Give me a
Yeah, no
second.
worries. I like that shirt.
All right, yeah, that's it. Huh? Sorry, I'm gonna make your life tougher here with some editing. Yeah. So yeah, basically, um, yeah, they in Taiwan people eat their beans sweet. So the first few years, I mean, people were looking at the beans and they would try them and be like, "What is this? It's awful." And for me, I'd go out for ice cream. They do their sort of shaved ice, their shaved ice thing here, and then they have this sort of like almost like a Subway. You get to pick your vegetables, your fruits and strawberries and mangoes and all the tropical stuff, and put it on your shaved ice. But they also have red beans and pinto beans and green beans and all that are sweet.
hmm
So yeah, definitely at the beginning it was tougher. But the good thing about the people here is they're willing to try.
hmm
So yeah, I mean it's not been such an easy thing to do to introduce a new cuisine to a
Sure.
completely different country. But yeah, I mean lots of ups and downs, but we made it. We're doing pretty good now. And I know pandemic aside, we've done pretty good. Yeah, I think.
That's awesome. That's terrific, man.
Thank
So
you.
let's switch gears and talk about for the people that are considering moving to Taiwan or would consider
Sure.
moving to Taiwan. They want to know about what is healthcare like? Are there
Oh,
is the
go ahead.
health what is the healthcare like compared to like Canada, for example,
Mhm.
compared to Canada is known for really terrific
Really good
healthcare and they
healthcare
have
in Canada. Yeah.
yeah, they have national healthcare.
Mhm.
Um, is it affordable in Taiwan, and is it quality healthcare? What do people do that are expats that move there?
So I have to say, Taiwanese healthcare is the best in the world. It blows Canada away, and Canada is known for good healthcare, right? So you can go to a dentist here for let me think, US for $3 US. You can go get you can go to the doctor, and it's always a flat fee to go for a doctor appointment. It's going to be less than 5 US. It's super super cheap. So
Wow.
your company pays, you pay a little monthly sort of national healthcare sort of fee. It's not much, and then your company, your employer pays, a bit more. I think it's like 70/30, something like that. So there's a small fee that gets paid every month from your paycheck. And when you go to like the dentist or the doctor or the chiropractor, it's really cheap, man. It's crazy because there's it's so hard to describe, especially to I have a lot of American friends, and American healthcare is unfortunately famous for being very expensive,
Yeah.
and yeah, you come here, and I have a lot of American friends that have some kind of connection in Taiwan, and any kind of surgery or anything they need, they fly here. For them to buy a ticket, fly here, stay here, do it here, and go back is cheaper than doing it in the States.
Wow.
Unfortunately, yeah. So yeah, you can go to I've got a dentist appointment on Monday, and me and my wife, it's going to be like $5. Maybe it'll be less than $10.
So do you
It,
pay just per visit, or do you pay for some type of insurance?
so you pay monthly through your job, and it's kind
Okay.
of like a nationalized thing. So everybody pays in, and you have just a little health card, and it's got a little SIM card chip thing on it. They take it, yeah, and they're just like, yeah, you do it, and you're good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you just pay it up, and you pay that monthly thing. And I mean, you don't go to the dentist all the time, you don't go to the doctor all the time, but when you need to, it's super cheap. Yeah, man. I mean, that kind of blew me away. I mean, sometimes you have to pay a little bit more for medicine and stuff like that, but it's never more than $10. It's pretty crazy. Yeah,
So
it's
let's say if I decided like next month I'm gonna move to Taiwan and I'm gonna hang
sure.
out for 6 months and I'm just gonna check it out and I'll get a side gig and I'll start
Mhm.
working, maybe teaching, I don't know. Would I have access to the same type of healthcare that you currently have?
I think you have to have a job. Like you have to have like sort of an official job to be able to pay into it. But I think even without it, it's still really reasonable. I mean, I've always had it, so I've never had to go without it.
Hmm.
But I mean, it's still going to be, I would say maybe double to triple, so maybe 10, 20, $30, and without the health insurance, and you're good. Yeah. So it's definitely, I mean, about the big surgeries and all that stuff, I don't know, but definitely you could still, yeah, you could still go in, walk into a clinic, and most of the clinics and that are just dentists and stuff. You can just walk in and like, hey, do you have time? Okay, I got to do my teeth today. Yeah, so it's possible, but yeah, I think you could, but it'll probably cost a bit more. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've had it for so long, I don't really remember that much about
Yeah.
not having it. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. What are the utilities like? The cost of like water, electric, cell phone, Wi-Fi?
So again, it's all really, really low. I think it's really low. The electricity can be low. I don't know the exact, kilowatt hours and stuff like that, but it's quite low. Obviously in the summer, the bill's a bit higher because it's really hot, so everyone's got their ACs and stuff going. But yeah, no, the water price is really reasonable. Actually, too reasonable. So people kind of waste it a little bit. So they take advantage. Internet, I would say probably US, maybe $30 a month for your house internet. But that's like some of the highest speed internet in the world. I think Korea, Japan, Taiwan are the highest speed. For example, your cell phone, um, you would probably pay about $30 a month for your phone fee. But that we call it in Chinese they call it 吃到饱. It's all you can eat, and it's just basically means unlimited. So you can have your 4G or your 3G or your 5G, whatever, on 24 hours a day. I mean, most people here just leave it on,
Yeah.
and they just have their own internet on their phone, and it's just unlimited. And so the last time I went back to Canada, I said, hey, I need to send an email or something. I had my cell phone on, and I told, my brother and sister, I'm like, you guys, can you turn on your hotspot so I can send an email? And everybody's like, oh, I'm out of minutes. I'm out of minutes. I'm out of minutes. I'm like, I've only got a few. I can't waste the minutes. I'm like, what? I haven't heard that. I'm out of minutes in Taiwan ever. I mean, I've
Yeah.
been here for 20 years, and it's been
Wow.
always been all you can eat. All you can eat. I mean, unlimited. Yeah, we just say all you can eat, right? It's that's what they say here, right? Oh yeah, so it's all you can eat. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. That is
yeah.
awesome. So if you
So
had to, if we had to sum it up and say, if somebody wanted to come over there, and let's say a person who's solo, that wanted to come over there, what could you safely say is a figure or a sum amount that they would need to live comfortably per month? And I know so let's say, um, let's first talk Taipei. To find an apartment to cover the cost of utilities, but in an affordable way where they're comfortable, they could walk to places, they can get around, they could feel and explore Taipei, explore Taiwan. But let's start off in Taiwan or Taipei. How much would you say they would need per month to cover all costs?
probably say US about maybe 1,500 US, maybe 1,000 US, between 1,000 and 1,500 US. I mean, you could do it with half of that. just eating local and not
In
spending money.
Taipei.
But yeah, in Taipei. But if you wanted to go out and go out to the coffee shops and do that, I'd say 1,200, maybe max, maybe 1,500. I mean,
So
providing
that's
you don't go to, Ruth Chris Steakhouse, all the
sure.
time. Yeah.
So
So
if you're going to
yeah,
like the local Taiwanese
yeah,
restaurants,
less for
you're eating
sure.
Taiwanese food
Yeah.
and go, so you could really live pretty well,
You
12
could
to
live very well.
1500.
Like I remember by my house, my first year, there was this Taiwanese lady with a stand that would make wontons, handmade this wonton soup, and that was probably like $1.50 for this like big bowl, maybe $2, big bowl of like soup with 8 maybe wontons, handmade wontons in there. I mean that yeah, you could do that if you did that every meal. Yeah, you could definitely do it really cheap. Definitely, you could do it for under 1,000,
Yeah.
depending on where you're living rent wise. But yeah, you could definitely do that. Yeah,
So I guess if you choose to live down south or
yeah,
along the
way
coast
less.
somewhere,
Yeah,
way less.
way less. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, you could rent a house for $300. Like I know people that rent like a building for $300. It's more remote, and they probably have a car,
Yeah.
because it's more remote. But the house rent would probably be $300, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I guess
sometimes.
like you say, the meals in local restaurants can be anywhere from probably $1.50 to 350
Yep.
for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Down south, it's gonna be probably less. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like Mexico. If you go to a really remote area, you're getting like 10-cent tacos, and they're fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But if you're
Yeah.
going to like, Cancun resort areas or something, I mean, you're not going to find that, right? So if you live like a local, you can definitely do it. Yeah,
Wow.
the
And what's
average
like
local salary is probably about 1,000 US. Yeah,
okay. What's it like a
yeah.
typical how much does a beer cost down there? Like a
So
bottle
you
of beer?
can. So the cool thing about here is all of the convenience stores, all of like the seven, you can go into 7-Eleven and buy beer. I mean, you can buy that pretty much anywhere. So you can get like a 7-Eleven beer for, $1.50. You can go to a restaurant and get locally produced craft beer, which is what we sell at the restaurant. So a restaurant price is going to be 200 tea would be $6 maybe. Yeah, about $6, 650. That's in a restaurant. So you could get that beer from the brewery for probably half that. Yeah, but you
Yeah.
can go into like a 7-Eleven and buy a Corona for like $1.50, and you can buy a locally produced one that locally, yeah, Taiwan beer is going to be like $1, I think, something like that. Maybe a
Yeah.
bit more than $1, but that's 7-Eleven. So they also raise the price. So if you were go to like a Costco, you could buy a case for cheap. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds comparable to, you know, pricing that I've heard in like Thailand and Bangkok, or outside of Bangkok and some of the islands
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Well, it
Philippines.
can be.
Yeah, it sounds like the prices are fairly comparable, and I wouldn't have thought that.
Well, it's going to be higher than those because those are really cheap. So
Yeah.
it'll be, I mean, outside of Taipei, it'd be a little bit more comparable. Inside Taipei, it really depends. But yeah, I mean, you can, if you want to, you can do it for those prices for sure. Most people, they kind of splurge and they do whatever. But yeah, yeah, you can. If you wanted to buckle down and do it. I had a buddy who lived in a small city. He was able to save a ton of money because there's no, here they say foreigners, there was no expats, and it was just him. He was teaching. There was no pubs, and he just stayed local, and he was able to save a lot of money in a couple of years and then go back to the States. Yeah. So you
Yeah.
can do that for sure.
Yeah. That sounds terrific, man. I definitely got to make it out to
Yeah.
Taiwan and check it out.
Yeah.
Um,
It's not as cheap as Thailand and Philippines because we have visited those places, and they're, yeah. I mean, because we don't live like super local, like we go out and we'll get burgers and stuff like that. But so you can actually do that sort of thing with even the expat food in Thailand, and it's still going to be really cheap.
yeah.
But if you were to come here and just go straight local, everything, yeah, it's definitely comparable for sure.
Yeah, what's your favorite Taiwanese food?
So there's it's kind of like they call it guabao. It's like it's a steamed bun, sort of same shaped like a burger. They call it Taiwanese burger, but the meat it's like a pork. It's like a pork belly that's been sort of slow cooked and steamed with some cilantro and stuff on it. So
Hmm.
they call it guabao, and it's yeah, it's just a sort of steamed bun with like it's really nice pork inside. That's really nice.
Hmm.
Also, kung pao chicken is a very big
Compound,
one. I
yeah.
don't know if that's really local, but all of the local places serve it, and it's great. There's one restaurant that does it sort of on the tip in the area I used to live in, Danshui. The only place I found that would do the kung pao chicken, but instead of the chicken, they would do like this really crispy pork pig intestine, and it reminded me a lot of Mexico, the tacos de tripa, like intestine sort of tacos. So they would do that. That is definitely my favorite dish. So, but yeah, most people don't eat that.
Yeah,
They,
yeah.
when they serve intestines, they're like, "What?"
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
like, "Oh no, foreigners don't eat that." And I'm like,
Right.
"Oh, I eat that. I'm Mexican," and they're just like, "What?" They're like, "No, I eat the intestine. I want that. That's like my favorite dish." So
Yeah, yeah.
that's definitely the favorite. Yeah.
How do you waba? I've never heard of that before. How do you spell that?
Guava,
Yeah.
Gua, gua, and then bao is Bao, guava. That's actually
Guabao. Guabao.
guava. That's actually
Guabao.
Taiwanese. Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Guava is actually a
Guabao.
Taiwanese term. Yeah, yeah. So if you go to
Fantastic.
China, I don't think you get that in China. I mean, I think that's Taiwanese. Yeah.
Yeah. And what is the what are the your favorite dish at the restaurant that you serve at Eddie's Cantina?
At
What's
Eddie's
your
Cantina, ooh, I mean, I had to. Every dish is kind of like my baby, right? It takes a while for me to pull out the good ones. I think fish tacos are really good. So our corn tortillas, we started by importing. So in the beginning, we couldn't. There was no corn flour here. Everybody would just give you cornstarch and say that's the same, and I'm like, it's not the same. So we tried to import masa harina, like a maseca, like corn flour. You can make tortillas. So we did that for a bit, but it was expensive to fly in. And so we tried on a boat with an import company. And so it's corn, right? It sits on a boat. When it arrives, you open it up and half of it be full of bugs and you can't use it. So that's kind of gross. And so I eventually found local corn and local dried corn from a local corn, organic corn farm here. And we figured out the process. When you're here, you have to figure things out because, for example, in Mexico, to make Mexican food is easy because you can go to the market and buy 20 different kinds of chilies, and you can
Mhm.
go to the tortilla factory and you can grab your tortilla, you can make it. In Canada, it's a little tougher because there's no tortilla factories, there's no chilies. So that's kind of where I think my mom was really creative with that, and sort of I got that from her. And I mean here, like for example in Mexico, hundreds of different kinds of chilies and chili powder. Here it's chili powder, paprika. It's those two, and you kind of got to get creative. So our corn tortillas, we use local grind corn, and that's the corn tortillas are pretty awesome. So I would say probably try the fish tacos. Yeah,
Okay.
very
All
popular.
right.
Yeah, with a corn tortilla. Yeah,
Yeah, when I come, I'm going to ask you for your recommendation.
yeah, of course. Sounds
So,
fantastic, man. Yeah.
and I
Well, you
just
get to
wanted to
try a
ask
lot
for,
when you're here.
yeah, and the people for that are into recreation and go and traveling and what is Taiwan known for? Things to do. What are like the top two or three things that people can do in and around Taiwan?
I'd say there's a lot of it's easy to get to the beaches. The beaches are not going to be very crowded. And then like the night markets. The night markets are great because there's lots of different kinds of food. The food's really cheap. One of the Taiwanese sort of pastimes is, I mean, obviously this is pre-COVID, but it's still now, uh, going to a night market and just kind of, buying something from here for 10 NT, which would be like 30 cents, 10, 20 NT, 30, 50 cents US. You buy your little, your squid on a stick, and then you eat that, and you go next, and you buy a sausage for 20 NT, and then you kind of eat that. You kind of eat your way up and down the street, You can buy your for like a buck 50, maybe you buy your fresh sugar cane, your fresh squeezed sugar cane juice. They have these sort of grinders where they would put like sugar cane in there and it would just come out, it's like a sugar cane juicer. You get like sugar cane juice, uh, barbecued corn. I mean, there's a lot of, skewers and stuff you can get for really cheap. So yeah, if you really want to live really cheap, you could do it with the night markets. And yeah, a lot. I mean, I don't think I've ever been sick from a night market. So
Yeah.
it's good stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Turnover's high, so yeah.
Is hiking big in
Yeah, you know
Taiwan?
what? Hiking is big. Hiking has become bigger in the last few years. Uh, Mostly expats like the hiking and stuff, but Taiwanese are more and more. Hiking is growing. Camping is something that was like non-existent 20 years ago, but now there's a lot of people doing camping here.
Yeah.
There's actually glamping now where they have like the whole cabins all
Yeah.
set up, and
Right.
it costs the same as a hotel basically.
Right.
And I
Right.
mean, so a lot of people do that. There's lots of areas where you can do that now. I prefer to go to a hotel because I'm in the service business, and when I'm on break, I want to get spoiled. I don't want to be hustling,
Sure.
making my all my stuff. I want to go down to the breakfast buffet and just kind of be served
Right. Take it easy.
because I'm in the service business. So when I'm on a break, I don't want to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
Ed, that's all I
yeah.
have, man. I just want to say
My
thank
pleasure.
you so much. And Ed Gonzalez, congratulations on all your success in
Thank you.
Taipei, in Taiwan. Well deserved. I mean, you're a terrific guy. You've obviously put in a lot of effort to make these things happen for yourself. And I just think it's terrific what you're doing. And keep up the great work, buddy.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it. And hey, maybe we can do a podcast on my show sometime soon if you're into that.
I'd love to. I'd
Yeah,
love
I
to.
love the background, man. Are you a musician or
I
like
play a little
yeah,
bit. Yeah,
really
I
nice,
play a little
nice
bit,
player.
and yeah. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
beautiful,
no,
bro. Yeah.
I'm a strummer. I play a
Okay,
little
okay,
drum, and every now and then my son he plays the drums, and we'll play together.
beautiful.
So yeah, it's fun.
Okay, beautiful,
But
man. Yeah,
thanks again, bud. I
my
appreciate it.
pleasure, man. I appreciate
Yep.
it. If you ever need anything, anyone's coming up to Taiwan, hit me up, and yeah, I'll help you out with whatever you need for sure.
Sounds good, man. Take
Thank
care.
you. Appreciate it, bro.
All right.
Okay, bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye, everybody.